Hello, welcome back to my very famous solving blank 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 series. About like a couple months ago, I did one about the Mad Gasser of Mattoon, and I liked doing that, but then I got very busy and needed to do actual stuff, so I stopped making YouTube videos because who's gonna care? But I like doing it, so maybe they'll come back, maybe I'll get a job, I don't know. But today we're gonna do the Dyatlov Pass incident. Now, this is a very big deal. Okay, I've done a lot of independent research. I've done a lot of speculation. The Dyatlov Pass incident, very mysterious. But I'm gonna be presenting you all the facts I could find. I'm not gonna be showing too many pictures. I showed no pictures on the last one and that video wasn't popular. So I'll be showing some pictures this time. It's not a lot because I had to look at like 20 pictures of corpses for this, and that wasn't very fun. So I'll be presenting. I made a PowerPoint is what I did. It's this for a class. I did this for a class. So I made a PowerPoint, and the pictures there, I'll be reading the script I made for the class, and I'll be showing you the pictures of the PowerPoint when they occur. Bam. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, the Dyatlov Pass incident was a tragedy that took place in early February 1959 in the Ural mountain range of Soviet Russia. This mysterious event killed 9 experienced hikers with no clear cause for their injuries or deaths. Many theories have been proposed, but none can explain everything. I'll take you through all the facts to see if we can figure out what really happened. The group of hikers started assembling for a skiing expedition across the Ural mountain range in early 1959. The group was led and assembled by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, and it composed of 8 men and 2 women. I'll be showing their pictures here, and I'll also be showing the map that they wanted to take here. All these hikers were experienced grade 2 hikers, each having been on a ski tour before. Every hiker would have received a grade 3 hiking credit on completion of this expedition. At the time in Soviet Russia, grade 3 was the highest rank you could get as a hiker. Therefore, they were in the upper range of the middle classification, so they were pretty experienced. The route was designed by the group and approved by an official sports club in their hometown. The goal of the trek was to go through the far north portion of the Sverdlovsk Oblast, which is a region in Soviet Russia. It's like a really big, it's like a state of Soviet Russia. And it was pretty barren, so I'll show the picture. And they wanted to reach a mountain named Otrotin. There were a few problems though. This trail was rated for grade 3, so they were a little below the actual grading requirement. And in addition, they set out on this hike in late January into early February, which was by far the hardest time to do this hike because it's in like the middle of winter and it's Russia. So I think you can tell what's wrong with that. Before leaving, Igor, I'm calling him Igor. Igor, because Tyler the Creator. Igor told home base, whoever he was communicating with, that he would send a telegram after they arrived back at the starting point. Igor estimated that the telegram would come around February 12th, but told home base to expect it later than that. Shortly after they began walking, one member had to turn back due to chronic pain. We will see how lucky he is. So that leaves 9 hikers on this trip. The group started their walk on January 27th from the furthest north village in the region. We can gather from their diaries and logs that the hike started normally and the group walked along the path for a few days. They stored some supplies, they walked, they took nice pictures. I'll be showing like a cool picture that everyone uses for the Dyatlov Pass incident. It will be in the thumbnail. And no, I will not be using any corpse pictures due to respect for the victims. But they are really easy to find. I mean, you can just find them on the internet. However, they reached, I'll be showing pictures of the Google Earth thing here. They reached this part, okay, and it was near the Dyatlov Pass. However, they kind of got turned around in a severe snowstorm. All right, this snowstorm had hurricane force winds and negative 40-degree temperatures. It was a really nasty snowstorm. So they wanted to go into this forested area. However, they ended up about 1,500 meters up the side of the pass, which is what you're seeing here, far away from where they wanted to be. Igor decided to set up camp on the slope instead of the forested area down the hill, probably because he didn't want to lose the altitude they had gained, because that would make them tired, you know. And just for clarification, they had one tent with a flashlight fixed on top of it. February 12th came and went with no telegram. It wasn't until February 20th, when the hikers' relatives demanded a search, that home base sent out a team of volunteer students and teachers. The Army later joined in, bringing planes and helicopters. It wasn't until the 26th that the search group found the tent, torn open from the inside, and buried half in the snow, which you will see here. 5 of the hikers were found right away. I'll be showing a map of where these bodies were found. 2 of the bodies were found in a forested area next to the remnants of a fire. A branch was snapped about 5 meters into a tree that they were under, suggesting that they had tried to climb it and find their camp or the other hikers. 3 of the hikers were found in between the tents and the trees, suggesting they were going to try and return to the tent. Each of them were kind of staggered. We'll explain it later on. The 4 others weren't found until May 4th under 13 feet of snow near an improvised den, which is kind of what you see the outdoor boys dig every time he goes out and he digs that big hole in the snow. The bodies were found in very strange conditions. Firstly, their tent had been cut open from the inside. Most of the bodies were found dressed extremely thinly for the cold, such as only having a shirt or pants on. Most of the bodies were found without shoes. The more well-dressed bodies, such as those found in the snow, likely took the clothes off the other dead hikers. The bodies were found with strange wounds. 6 of the hikers had died of hypothermia, and 3 of them died of major chest or head trauma. The initial reports say it was comparable to a car crash or extreme pressure, although there was no soft tissue damage. The 4 bodies found in the creek had soft tissue damage, but I'm going to get into specifics. 2 of their eyes were missing, so 2 of the bodies had their eyes missing. 1 of them had their tongue missing, and she also had her eyes missing. And 1 body had his eyebrows missing, but in particular, he had this whole bit of skin gone, revealing his skull. Radiation was found on one of the girls' clothes, and at the funeral, witnesses described the bodies as having tan skin and grayish hair. They also recovered in a modicum of small, fresh cuts and bruises. The Soviet government concluded their investigation and said that the hikers had died of a compelling natural force. The Soviet government, as it often would, quickly swept the incident under the rug and put the files in a secret archive. Because of this, the incident has been a source of numerous theories and conspiracies. I'll go over some of those now. Number 1, catabolic winds. These are winds when a big pocket of cold air suddenly goes down a mountain really fast. Okay, my hair looks horrible, I'm sorry. Now, they say this because you can see by the geography that it is similar, and a similar incident happened in Sweden where catabolic winds on similar geography killed 8 hikers in 1978. So people like that. However, it doesn't really explain like the super major chest trauma and how they were found. So, excuse me, I'm sorry. Infrasound. Now this is a sound that is lower than humans can hear, but if it is loud enough, we can still feel it. Think of bass, all right? Infrasound has been known to cause mental distress in people, such as panic attacks. So the theory is that a shredding vortex wind just like produced infrasound and caused the hikers to run out in a panic attack and get lost. Again, doesn't really explain the horrible injuries. military test, records indicate that the Soviets were testing parachute mines in the area of the Dyatlov Pass. The theory states that one day the military accidentally dropped mines on the hikers, causing an explosion that caused them to flee their tents and kill some of them. One of the websites I got most of my information from, which had the corpse pictures and like very detailed records, it's called like the Dyatlovpass.com, something like that. It's really easy to find. It's like the first website that pops up, and they love this theory. They think that from what I could tell, they think that a bomb did drop and cause the injuries to the 3 majorly injured, or that a special forces team like smashed someone's skull. I don't think that, which is why I'm putting these theories before my actual theory, the very obvious one that everyone knows. They also, a similar theory states that the Soviets secretly tested radiation-based weaponry on the hikers, explaining their discoloration and the radiation dusting. I'll explain this later too, because I did read like all of the case files. Okay, I'll explain it later. Paradoxical undressing. In the later stages of hypothermia, you begin to feel very warm. Excuse me. It's either from like your body getting colder or all your blood rushing to your core and away from your extremities, so you only feel warm. I didn't do a lot of research into it, but that's what I've heard. This has been known, so yeah, they strip down in discomfort because they get very warm, usually causing them to die faster. So if you are in a really cold place, obviously don't take all your clothes off. You're not getting warmer, okay? I would suppose it's like when you get out in the snow and your arms go kind of numb, and then you put them in hot water and they feel really, 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 really hot. That's what I assume it feels like, and that does not feel good. So it could have been that they were found, they like ran out for some reason, and then they undressed. But I don't think that's true either. I think they left the tent undressed. Mansi was a tribe in the area, and the Soviets quickly ruled out that these tribesmen did not kill the hikers. Wildlife would explain the post-mortem injuries. However, no tracks, no fresh tracks at least, no tracks at the time of the deaths were found with the hikers when they found them. Mushrooms, hallucinogenic mushrooms have been known to grow in the Ural Mountains. They're apparently quite common, so they think that they might have tripped out and ran out of the tents. I don't think that's true. These guys were pretty experienced. They did make a dumb mistake, like settling on the hill, but we'll see later on that all their actions were pretty educated. So I don't think this is true. And aliens, several years after the incident, some pretty credible sources like military and weather stations claim to see orange orbs, which has both been used to credit the military theory and the aliens theory, which I don't think either are true. So the orange orbs could be completely unrelated. Because, I don't know. According to all my research, I'm going to tell you what I think happened, which is the avalanche theory, which is the theory that most people seem to agree with. A lot of the discredit is like the geography wasn't steep enough for an avalanche, but in order to set up their tent, they had to dig into the snow, which could have settled the snow. I'll get into it. I'll read it. The hikers set up the camp on the slope of the mountain by digging into the snow and propping up their tents. And you could see the mountain was pretty steep, and they had to dig pretty significantly into the snow. And late into the night in the snowstorm, which reached temperatures of negative 40 degrees and hurricane force winds, snow on the mountain starts to shift under the fresh snowfall. Snow is heavy, first of all, and that's very high winds. So I think it is credible that the snow at least, I don't think there was a full-blown avalanche, but I think the snow at least shifted enough for them to panic. Thinking there could be an avalanche, the group wakes up in a panic. Some of them are able to put on warm clothes, as we'll see later on, while some of them have to stay in their pajamas. Most of them don't even get their shoes on. So, and the tent entrance seemed to be blocked by snow, so they cut their way out of the side. And they ran down the mountain to the forested area they know was there. I don't think they were too scared. I think what they were doing is that they thought there might be an avalanche and that they would be immediately crushed in the tent. So they ran out to the forested area, which would provide better protection, and then they thought that they could sit there for a while and then go back up because they had the flashlight on the tent. So they thought that maybe they could do that, but I think they were much more unprepared than they thought they would be. The hikers make their way down the side of the mountain to the forest, which would provide better protection from an avalanche. The hikers scramble around in the darkness until they can start a small fire. I use this to explain a lot of the injuries they got. One person climbs a tree and spots their tent, explaining the broken branch. So they climb the tree to try and find the flashlight, which would explain some of their own injuries, while the others form a plan. This was the plan they had. The group splits into three. The two worst dressed people, which there was evidence that they were like the worst dressed or the most sick or whatever, stay back at the campfire they had started, where they would later freeze to death, sadly. It seems that they would freeze to death while the other two teams split off. These two had burns on their legs and one of their temples, so I think that was them sitting way too close to the fire and getting burned, which I would do if I was freezing to death. Three people try and make their way back to the tents for clothes and sleeping bags, which are the three we see on their way back. They would have been able to see the tent, or at least the general direction, thanks to the flashlight. However, these three people quickly got exhausted by the deep snow and the inadequate clothing, so they fell down and freeze to death, they freeze to death. Igor being the first one, he was closest to the trees. I don't think they would have been able to see each other, even if the snowstorm had let up. I think that they would have just continued walking without being able to like check behind them. So they likely just kept walking until they fell down and froze to death. Excuse me. The last four split up and went further into the woods, closer to the stream we see, to set up a better camp, the den, which was a pretty standard survival exercise at that point. They dig a den and cover it with cedar sticks. While waiting for the three that went to the tents, those four return to the two under the cedar tree. So these four, while waiting for the three that went off and died, the four return to the two and see that they have frozen to death. Now the bodies were arranged by laying down, and they had a blanket over them, and one of the four people in the stream had their clothes, so it is likely that they got back, found them dead, laid them down, covered them with the blanket, and then took their clothes for warmth. Now this guy, one of the guys under the cedar tree, had radiation on his clothing, but I read the reports and the radiation levels were detectable but not absurd. I mean, he wasn't blasted enough to kill him. It was enough radiation that anyone that worked with radiation regularly would have had that on their clothing, or a natural dusting of it. So he could have been around an isotope. He could have been like Homer Simpson and just worked with it. We don't know. I don't really know. But it wasn't unnatural, I would say. It was weird, but not unnatural enough to like really affect anything. Now, those four return after they cover the two. They return and they step on a snow hole formed by the running stream under the snow. So they fall down. Now, if you had seen these bodies, you would see that they landed on rocks. I don't know how far the fall was. It definitely wasn't 13 feet, because I think the snow added on top of them. But it was pretty deep. I mean, snow gets really deep. So I don't think they fell from like super long way, but I'll explain it. Okay, so they fall down and get injuries, right? The lady, she's my favorite one, just because I like how resourceful she is in taking clothes. She wrapped some strips of clothes around her hands and feet, and I think that she was, I feel bad for her the most. She falls down, and you should see the picture. She fell on her chest on these jagged rocks. It was like this. And she ruptured one of her heart arteries, so she would have been alive for about 5 to 10 minutes while she bled out, sitting in that stream. One of the other ones fell down and hit his side, which he would have bled out slower, but he would have been dead within about 20 minutes. The third one fell down and hit the side of his head, which would have given him a severe concussion at least. And then the last one, he fell down and broke his nose. We saw he had a broken nose. And so they found him holding on to the guy that hit his head really hard. So it was likely that they were all in the dark. So he crawled over and tried to provide this guy either comfort or warmth, and they all froze to death in the stream because they were under the snow at this point. Now, I think the frigid water of the stream could have easily prevented the soft tissue damage that you would normally see while still like breaking their bones and doing that. I think it could have easily stopped the bruising. The cold water, I mean, I don't know if snow would have done that because there was bruising on other people. So I do think that's plausible. The bodies were also found a lot later. I mean, so it could have been that there was soft tissue damage and it disappeared by the time they found these bodies. I don't know how, I didn't really research all the decay and preservation of bodies in cold. Now, the missing eyebrows was just from natural rot, and the missing tongue and eyes, I think, could be explained by natural decay. Maybe they were warmer than the other body parts. Maybe it was wildlife, but it was post-mortem, so I don't think the predator came out and took their eyes. I think it was natural. I do believe that is the most likely scenario. And I don't know exactly the method that the eyes were removed, either by wildlife like birds or just natural decay, but I don't think that anything suspicious happened with them. And the extreme injuries, like the car crash, might have been an over-exaggeration, but it also might have been that the snow that was piled onto them for months, which is heavy, people have been known to be crushed under snow, that could have also crushed them more and provided a lot of that internal damage without the soft tissue damage. So I think it is a combination of like the snow and the falling that really did all that. What did I just open? Asian American Heritage Month? Okay. What? Whatever. Now the extremely cold climate of that would have mummified the bodies. Not enough for like, they were found with rigor mortis and vita mortis, which is why the blood pools, but I don't know if they weren't decayed past that. So the cold definitely preserved them, and it might have mummified them, which I think is likely. So yeah, I think that the discoloration on them could be easily explained by the cold mummifying them. Any of the dozens of smaller injuries like cuts and bruises to the hands and face and nose could be easily explained by shuffling around. And yeah, rest in peace. But I think the Dyatlov Pass incident is really not that complicated. I don't think most people take the aliens too seriously. It is mysterious, but I think that Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is usually the right one, is really the best explanation here. That they just ran out, tried their best to survive, and got lost. And with all the pictures and evidence I've seen, I think my explanation is pretty rock solid. So yeah, thanks. Solved the mystery. Wendigoon, you can take 2 points of credit for it, and that's it. Give me a shout out. Alright, like and subscribe so I don't have to get a job this summer and I can make so many other good videos.